Hey everyone, it's Zach back with a new mortgage video. Hope you're all having a happy Wednesday. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, welcome to my channel where I'll try to demystify all things mortgage related. If you find this content helpful, like and subscribe. So I'll save the bulk of my analysis for Friday, but let's just say rates have continued on the rocky path that they have been on for the past month or so. And I wanted to do a video on how to navigate that market. Now, I'll start by saying there's going to be a number of topics in this video that are, I would consider, somewhat advanced. So if you are not familiar with paying points, with seller credits, or temporary buy downs, check out the videos below. I've made a video on all of those topics. But if you are familiar, then you should understand what's going on in this video. So basically, in the current landscape with interest rates going up, it's creating a buyer's market. So buyers have more leverage right now based on what's going on with rates. So let's say you want or need to buy a house, but you don't want to pay a high interest rate in the 7s or even 8s. How can you get that down while also locking in a good deal in this current market where prices are more reasonable than they've been? So the best way to do that is with seller credits. And I'm going to talk about two types of ways to get your rate down. One, a permanent buy down, and one, a temporary buy down. So let's start with, and also I'm focusing just on the conforming loans, so conventional, FHA, USDA, VA, because those are the most common for primary residences. So of those loans, conventional, if you're putting less than 10% down, is going to offer the least amount of potential seller credits. So the maximum seller credits, if you're doing conventional and putting less than 10% down, is 3%. So let's say you don't want to really have to worry about the market or having to track where rates are, and you just want to get the rate as low as possible, and you're doing a conventional loan under 10% down and getting those 3% seller credits. You can do a permanent buy down. Let's just say, for example, the normal interest rate is a 7.5%. With a permanent buy down, if you're putting all 3% in seller credits into getting the rate as low as possible permanently, you could probably get that down to about a 6.5%. The other option is a temporary buy down combined possibly with a permanent buy down. So, for example, a 2-1 buy down is usually going to cost between 1.9 to 2.2%. So if you're getting 3% in seller credits, you can do your 2-1 buy down and also do a slight temporary buy down with the remaining 1.1 or 0.8% left over. So same example, if you're normally going to be at a 7.5%, you can do a permanent buy down to like a 7.375, and then tack on a temporary buy down, a temporary 2-1 buy down to get it to where you're at a 5.375 for the first year and a 6.375 for the second year. Afterwards, it goes up to a 7.375 for the rest of the loan. Now, one thing I want to note that I didn't talk about in my video about temporary buy downs, which is important to understand, is that if you get the seller to pay for your temporary buy down, the way it'll work is the amount of money that you're saving in the first year off the 2% lower interest rate, in the second year off the 1% lower interest rate. Let's just say that savings in interest is $10,000. If you go to refinance, let's say after a year and a half, rates go down and it makes sense to refinance. If you've still got, say, $3,000 less left of that initial $10,000 in savings, how it'll work is you'll get that $3,000 deducted from your principal when you go to refinance. So if you still owe $350,000, you would refinance at only $347,000. Now that's only if the seller is paying for your temporary buy down. If you are paying for it or the lender is paying for it, that money, that $3,000 goes away. So important to understand that. Now I'm going to skip the VA example. That's 4% is the maximum amount of seller credits, and it's only VA. So that'll be slightly better than 3%. But let's jump to 6% in seller credits. Now that is applicable for FHA, USDA, and conventional if you're putting 10 to 25% down. So same example. Let's say you've got normally a 7.5% interest rate. If you want to permanently buy that down to as low as possible, you could probably get it down to about 5.875. Then you've got a rate in the fives and you can just sit back and hang out. Or other option is you can do a temporary buy down plus a permanent buy down. Now, you could do a 2-1 buy down and use the rest, which would be 3.8 to 4.1% to put towards the permanent buy down. Or the example I'll give is you could do a 3-2-1 buy down. So maybe you think the market is going to be rough for 3 years rather than 2. This might be a good example or good strategy for someone who believes that. So the way that would work is that's going to cost more like 3.7 to 4% to get that 3-2-1 buy down. So you'll use the 2 to 2.3% to buy the rate down permanently to like a 6.875. And then on top of that, you'll have the 3-2-1 buy down. So the first year you're getting a 3.875, second year 4.875, third year 5.875, which is pretty wild in today's market. So same thing applies where if after, I don't think this will happen, but let's just say, for example, if after a year and a half rates go down, you're sitting at a 4.875 at this point, rates go down to 4.5. You can refinance, and if you have a balance left of $10,000, you get that deducted from your principal. So these are a couple examples. Now, the one other thing, like I said, VA, you can go up to 4%, and conventional, if you're putting more than 25% down, you can actually get up to 9% in seller credits. Now, I'll just share my personal experiences. I have never done a loan with more than 6% in seller credits. I've done several with 6%. The drawback is typically you'll have to pay more than the listing price to get that done. With the market the way it is, if it continues to slow down, maybe that'll change, but I would expect there's going to be a trade-off. Like, you're not going to get the price discounted as much if you're asking for a lot of seller credits in addition, but it's worth asking, and it's worth running the scenarios of what's the difference in a higher purchase price with a better interest rate versus a lower purchase price with a higher interest rate. Generally, if you're planning to live in the house for an extended period of time, like more than 3 years, you're going to be better off with the lower interest rate and the higher purchase price. If you were flipping, for example, it's all about the purchase price, the rehab, and the sales price. Interest rate doesn't matter as much because you're holding it for so short a period of time. But for any first-time home buyer or second-time home buyer, anyone that's living in the house for an extended period of time where it's your home, then again, it's almost always going to be better to take the lowest possible interest rate. So as always, if you have any questions or comments, shoot them below. If you ever want to price out a specific scenario, let me know. You can also always reach me on my cell phone, call or text, night or day. But thanks for tuning into this video, and I will see you next time.